we've got everybody now. I'm going to go ahead and call to order the Retirement System Board of Trustees meeting for Friday, December 18th, 2020. Called to order at 8:03 a.m. We'll start by a roll call. Begin with myself, Lee Colick, Chair, calling in from Royal Oak, Michigan. Next would be Brett Nelson, Vice Chair.
I'm present, calling in from Troy, Michigan.
Thank you. We have Kyle DeBuck, Trustee.
I'm here from Royal Oak, Michigan.
Thank you. Paul Brake.
Present, Royal Oak.
Also present is Julie Rudd, the Board Chief Administrative Officer, Board Secretary, and Board Treasurer.
Present.
And Lisa Genord, Administrative Assistant, Pension Technician.
Present.
Tom Michow, Board Attorney with Van Overbeek, Michow, and Timoney.
Here.
Terry Gerlich. Investment Advisor. Thank you. We also have Mark Boyce.
Bice. Yes.
Mike Kosiuk.
Kostyuk, yes.
Okay. And we also have in the meeting is Brian Green.
Present.
All right, thank you, everyone. That brings us to public comment. Carol, could you let me know if there's public comment from the...
If anyone in the audience would like to make public comment, please raise your virtual hand. If you're calling in from a phone, you would do that by hitting *9. Okay, you'll have 3 minutes to talk after stating your name. Let me just get here. To unmute, hit *6, and you can begin your public comment at any time. You can begin your public comment at any time. Start by stating your name, please. Not sure what's going on. If you want to make public comment, you're unmuted now, so you can begin speaking at any time, but start your public comment by stating your name, please. Oh, you've muted yourself again.
Hey, good morning.
There we go.
There we go.
There we go.
Yep, you're good. We can hear you now.
Now, I don't see my picture on your little screen here, so I'm not the world's best Zoomer, so I apologize for that. Anyway, my name's Brian James. I wrote an email to 3 of the board members yesterday. I would insert that in the record as a public comment, and that's, I guess, all I have to say relative to that.
Did you want to read the email? During your time, you have 3 minutes if you'd like to read that, if you want it to be accepted as public comment. Most people following this meeting aren't going to have the ability to read it, so.
I don't even have the email in front of me, so obviously, I guess, Mr. Colick, I got an email from you today, so you must have the email. I would ask that you insert it into the record.
I can insert a hard copy. Would you like me to read it? Is that what you're requesting, or? I have it in front of me right now if you want me to read it.
All right, go ahead.
Okay, so on behalf of Brian James, I'm going to read the email that myself and a couple others received yesterday. First, thank you for your service on the Royal Oak Retirement System Board of Trustees. I used to provide representation to the board, and I know it's a lot of effort with zero compensation. Second, my name is Brian James. For reasons unknown to me, I am listed on the agenda as an item under approval of adjustments, applications, retirements, benefits, requests. Please allow me to point out that I have made no request to do anything with my retirement benefits. My benefits accrued to me as a result of a federal court consent order resolving a matter in which the city of Royal Oak was the defendant and I was a plaintiff. As part of completing the terms of that order, I retired from the city and named a beneficiary for my benefits. I'm certain you are familiar with that process. The beneficiary was, is, and will continue to be the same person, assuming that I predeceased that named beneficiary. The verbiage associated with the agenda item says that I have not supplied documents needed for reasons unstated. The fact of the matter is that I supplied the divorce judgment when it was entered. I supplied it again to Mary Jo DiPaolo upon a request from the city. I supplied it again to Carol Kuipers, who was in the HR department as a result of an audit being performed by someone. I had requested a form for a QDRO acceptable to the city and was advised that it was unnecessary. Now I am advised by email from someone named Julia Rudd that I need to supply 256 pages of divorce documents to the city. I don't know if there even are 256 pages of documents in that file. I don't know how or why Julia Rudd came to the conclusion that the documents exist in that number or why they would be relevant to anything to do with the city. My recollection is that I have supplied the JOD 3 times at least, been subjected to 1 or 2 audit exercises, and have never changed or asked to change the beneficiary on my retirement benefit. I did change my life insurance beneficiary to compensate that person for assisting my retirement benefits beneficiary with my estate. That's it. That was a couple of years ago. So I request that you remove the item from the agenda or direct Julia Rudd to look at the city's Mary Jo DiPaolo, Carol Kuipers files and retrieve the documents previously supplied, or simply receive, note, and file the item requiring no further action. My Michigan legal team remains available. I suppose we could all go back to court and investigate whether or not these numerous requests for numerous privacy invading, totally irrelevant, superfluous documents are some form of actionable retaliation. I do not want to go there, and I'm hard pressed to imagine why the board would either. I think the order from 2006-2007, I was divorced in 2011-2012. I have supplied the JOD at least 3 times, and I have made no changes to my beneficiary since I originally was merged into the retirement process as the result of the litigation. I will very much appreciate the board resolving this matter by leaving the status quo in place. I am of the opinion that the city, the board, and I have all acted in good faith throughout. I don't know who, how, or why anyone is trying to disrupt that. Maybe someone has some demons to exercise 15 years later. I don't know or care. I know I don't have any, and I don't want to overreact here. And then he continues to say he'll try to Zoom into your meeting tomorrow. I don't have 5G Wi-Fi. If he fails, he can be reached at this email. Is that correct, Mr. James?
That is correct, Reed. I appreciate you taking the time and trouble to do that, Mr. Colley. Absolutely.
Again, I did respond to your email this morning. I apologize for any inconveniences that you've had to go through in the past. I don't know if you've responded to my email yet, but I will ask you the 2 questions just really briefly. The first was, are you willing to provide another copy of the judgment of divorce if I'm unable to locate one? And the second is, is your ex-wife entitled to pension benefits per your JOD? If those are questions you'd like to answer, feel free. If not, if you answer them now and you're willing to provide the judgment of divorce, I'd be happy to remove that item from the agenda. Otherwise, I will leave it on the agenda at this time.
Yeah, I don't know what to say about that. I don't know what you guys are doing with these judgments. I mean, those are documents that it seems like, I know you've gotten 3 copies of this, so I just wonder what you're doing with them and why it is that that I have to provide it again. I don't know whether I have a copy of the judgment handy or not. And second of all, I got to figure out some way to quit doing this with you people. I don't know how many times this has come up. I've been through 1, 2 audits. Apparently, whatever was required has been received, because I never heard a word from the city about any additional documentation that you needed. wanted until I got this request for what appears to be 256 pages of documents. So, I understand if you guys need another copy of the judgment of divorce and you can at least make some representation that it's not going to be available to the general public or whatever it is that happened in the first three, I guess I can do that. But what I need is some relief from this request of 256 pages, and I'm not even sure there are 256 pages of divorce documentation, but that can't possibly be relevant to the city. So yeah, I'll give you another copy of the judgment of divorce if I can find one. Obviously, we're in a COVID situation here. I can't just waltz into the clerk's office. It's going to be a big deal to get a hold of one unless I can find a copy laying around the house here. So, if you need another one, that's fine. But where does this stop? And, how do I know that I'm not going to be here next year, the year after that, and the year after that with you people doing the same thing? This is the third or fourth time we've been through this.
I understand and I appreciate that. There are, we are fiscally responsible for these, for these accounts. If we do audit from time to time internally, and if there's things that we find that, need to be looked at, that's what we're going to continue to do. So I definitely understand it's an inconvenience to you. I do appreciate you're willing to cooperate. It will save us, the hassle of trying to obtain those documents on our own through the court. So I appreciate that. Do you think 60 days is a fair amount of time that you could provide those documents?
Yeah, if I can't get them in 60 days, I can't get them. But right. I suspect actually, I think I might have seen the thing when I was getting my Christmas decorations out. So this may not be that big a deal for me. But the point is, Mr. Colick, with all due respect, this has to stop. I mean, I don't know. This is going to be, if I send you another copy of this judgment, this is the fourth time. I don't know who's auditing, why you're auditing me, why my name keeps coming up. But I'm entitled to some relief. I'm just a regular citizen. I live out here in Santa Fe, New Mexico. I'm up here at 6:15 in the morning, my time, and I do have a car service appointment today, so in all honesty, I would have been up anyway. But what is enough? I mean, I've been audited, or theoretically, and I don't see these documents. I just see the correspondence from the city. I've been through one audit, two audits, some number of audits, and this has just got to stop. Why?
Again, I appreciate those sentiments, and I apologize for any wrongdoing that may have been, happened towards you in the past. I'll do everything I can moving forward from this point on, but we do have a fiscal responsibility for all members, current and past, including yourself. So that's our obligation, and that's what, we're going to have to continue to do. So again, I appreciate your cooperation. That'll be the end of public comment. I will at this time make a motion to remove that item from the agenda, which would have been item number 6 under adjustments. We will strike that from the agenda regarding Charles James, in hopes that within 60 days he will be able to provide those documents. If not, then we'll address it at that time. Carol, do we have anything else under public comment?
There are no other audience members this morning.
So
Okay.
is the item off the agenda or no?
Mr. Chair made a motion.
You're right. I'm sorry. I'm going to make a motion. Can I get a second? Can I get a second to remove that item from the agenda? I've got a second by Brett.
Support that. Brett supported.
All in favor? Myself, Lee Colick, I'm a yes. Kyle?
Yeah, just with the understanding that, we'll get a little background on this from Ms. Rudd at some point. Yes.
Thank you. Paul?
Yes.
Brett?
Yes.
All right, thank you. The item is removed.
So I could assume that it's going to be on your regular meeting 2 months from now, which would be the February meeting.
I mean, as long as we have that judgment of divorce, and if no further action is required, if we do not need the QDRO based upon the information in that judgment of divorce, then we should be good. Is that correct, Julie? Okay. All right. Thank you. Let's go to number 3, request that the board approve the agenda for December 18th, 2020. I'm gonna go ahead and make that motion. Do I have support?
Brett supports.
Support by Brett. I'm a yes. Kyle?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Brett?
Yes.
I'm gonna make a motion that the board approve the minutes for November 20th, 2020. Is there support?
Brett supports.
Brett supports. I'm a yes. Kyle?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
And Brett?
Yes.
Okay, that brings us to number 5, other, for the presentation of the 72nd annual actuarial valuation report. At this time, I'm going to turn it over to Mark.
All right, thank you very much. I am going to attempt to share my screen here. Okay, can people see, someone give me a thumbs up. Can they see a screen? Okay, 72nd actuarial valuation report. This is as of June 30, 2020. Just a reminder, you know, there's several reports that the board will receive. You'll receive also later what's called the GASB report, which is an accounting report. So the purpose of this annual actuarial evaluation is to determine the recommended contribution amounts and rates for the upcoming fiscal year beginning July 1, 2021. So the fiscal year 21 to 22. At one point in time, maybe 5 or 6 years ago, there was one actuarial report. You got all the information you needed. The accounting standards changed, and so now there's various actuarial reports that are required. Try to kind of walk you through those differences, but just keep in mind this is required by law to have this report calculated annually to give the board and the city direction on the recommended contributions by the actuary. So I'm going to try to be brief here. I know these virtual meetings are difficult to navigate, but I'm going to go right to the recommended contributions and kind of walk you through that. On this chart on page A3 here, we have the recommended contributions. They're broken up between the general and water, and then the police and fire. And it's basically made of 2 components. We have what's called the normal cost component, and that's really the cost for each active member to accrue 1 year of service towards their retirement benefit. The idea being city contributes that normal cost payment every year while you're an active member. And by, you know, if all of our assumptions come true, by the time you reach retirement age, there'll be a big pot of money there to pay the benefits for the rest of your lifetime. So if you just look at, say, the general and water column, we have 14.91% of payroll as the normal costs broken down by various type of benefits. Then we know that members are contributing about 5.42% of pay on average. It's different for each union group, and that's why we have kind of this odd number, 5.42. So that's the members portion, and then we subtract that from the total normal cost to get the employer normal cost of 9.49%. And that's a good number to remember, because if the plan were exactly 100% funded, that's really the true cost to provide pension benefits for each active member, the general water category. Of course, we know that there is some unfunded liability, and that's the second part of the calculation. We take whatever is the unfunded liability, we amortize it over a period of years, and then we add that to the normal cost. So that number is expressed right here. We'll talk about the total unfunded liability in a minute, but basically for general and water, we're amortizing that liability over a period of 18 years. And that gets us to the 735,682. So the total contribution is shown here at the bottom. We take 9.49% of the projected payroll, which is about $3.6 million, add it to the 735,682, and the contribution is 1,077,067. Again, this is the general and water portion. Note that this has gone up a little bit since last year. I believe last year's the recommended contribution was just over $1 million. A couple of reasons for that. Basically, the unfavorable asset performance, which we'll talk about in a minute. And then also there were more retirements over the last year than we were assuming. On the police and fire side, the layout looks a little bit different. At the top, it looks pretty much the same. Here we have the normal cost, 21.47% of payroll. So keep in mind, normal cost is different. The benefits are different for police and fire. You know, generally, police and fire retire earlier. So they have a different set of benefits. We subtract the member contributions to get to the employer normal cost of 15.58% of payroll. Similarly, the unfunded liability is amortized. In this case, for amortizing the unfunded liability over 23 years and divided by payroll. So this format looks a little bit different because we're expressing it as a percent of payroll for police and fire. And that's because police and fire are still open to new hires, where general and water is now a closed group. And so projecting payroll doesn't make sense as much for the general and water. So all told, if we take that 67.86% of computed employer rate, apply it to the projected payroll, we get to $7.538 million for the police and fire side. And in total, contributions about 8.6 million. Again, it was a little over 8.1 million last year. Actually 8.25 million last year. So the primary reasons were unfavorable investment performance and more retirements than expected. And so we want to take a look now to see what the assets, actually the assets and the liability look like on the next page. When we look at the accrued liability again for the general side, which is now closed, we have in item A4, total accrued liability for all members, you know, retirees, vested active members, 85.8 million. Present assets, we're smoothing assets, which we'll talk about in a minute, 78.2 million. So the unfunded liability is 7.5 million. That's what we're amortizing over 18 years for the general side. So 91.2% funded on the general side. When we look at the police and fire, you see 47.3% funded. So just a reminder that I think in 2016, the city had bonded for some of the unfunded liability, and they could only bond on the general side because according to the rules, they were closed to new hires. So there wasn't the bonding on the police and fire side. So there's still quite a bit of unfunded liability for the police and fire side of about $86.9 million. But keep in mind, there is a funding plan. We're amortizing that over 23 years, just like a mortgage that will pay down each and every year. And eventually that will get paid off and the funded percent will climb back up towards 100%. But like any mortgage, if you have a 30-year mortgage, you know that the early years, you're not paying a whole lot towards the principal. Most of it is going towards interest payments. So the fact that we have 23 years remaining, the funded ratio will probably stay a little bit low until we get down to about 15 years, 10 to 15 years, and then you'll see a rapid increase in the funded ratio. In total, when we look at the plan in total, the plan's 62.3% funded. You know, while that's a little bit lower than the average, across the country. I think the averages across the country are maybe 70 to 75% funded. What's probably more important to keep in mind is you do have a funding policy in place to pay off the unfunded liability, and that's part of this annual contribution that is made every year. Looking at the asset side, we smooth assets to smooth out the contribution requirements each year. So we're employing a 4-year smoothing period on page A5 here. If you look at the very bottom row, we have market value rate of return for the 2020 year, 2.9%. It's important to keep in mind that, you know, all of these numbers were calculated as of June 30. So June 30, you know, that was 3 months into the pandemic. Had a lot of June 30 plans that returned 0% for that period. So, you know, 2.9% is actually not that bad compared to what a lot of other plans were as of June 30. And keep in mind also that the market has rebounded quite a bit since June 30. So next year, if things continue, you know, they might be a big gain. But again, we would smooth any gains or losses over a 4-year period. If we look at, so the bottom line is the funding value after all the smoothing is currently $156.24 million. We look at the market value at the end of the year, which was $149.9 million. So there's this $6.3 million difference that's called unrecognized loss that will be recognized over the next 3 years. But again, it could be offset by any future gains. And hopefully that's why we smooth assets. If you look at the last 2 years, the market rates of return were 2.9 and 5.6 respectively. The idea is to, you know, to smooth in these gains and losses to smooth out the contribution rates. Any questions so far? With that being said, I'm going to move all the way to, I guess, final comments. We've already talked about the first 2 comments, the fact that the recommended contribution has increased due to the investment markets and also more retirements than expected. You know, the investment return 6.6% is on a smooth value, but you know, there are $6.3 million in unrecognized losses. That's going to put some upward pressure on the contribution rates unless we get some positive returns. And so far for the last, you know, since June 30, there definitely have been positive returns. The recommendation here is just a standard kind of housekeeping recommendation. It's strictly an accounting for the accounting reserves. What we do is we true up the liabilities for the retiree reserve. So I think this is probably in the board resolution as well. Keep in mind, there's no money actually being transferred in any of the accounts. This is strictly an accounting measure. Again, by ordinance, we keep reserves for various accounts, retirees, employer contributions, and it's just truing up those reserve accounts. You know, looking ahead, you know, it's important to remember that you know, this valuation was as of June 30. So there wasn't a whole lot of COVID data reflected in this report. We'll see what happens during the next year. We have a full year worth of COVID experience to see, you know, is that going to affect mortality rates? Is that going to affect, you know, payroll, terminations, retirements? So far with a lot of our other plans, we have seen kind of an uptick in retirements. Certainly have seen an uptick in the number of deaths due to COVID, but also death due to other causes has been down. So typically when we gather data for that type of information, we look over a 3 to 5 year period. So, you know, that information will evolve over time. And then finally, Public Act 202 has created a third set of actuarial numbers. This is for the state of Michigan to kind of compare liabilities and funded statuses for different plans across Michigan. And that information has basically uniform assumptions. And we were just pointing out here that we have some GASB, or the Public Act 202 reporting is in the GASB report. They use a different set of assumptions, so you'll see different liabilities in those reports as well. And I think that's all I had for now. Is there any other questions or comments?
I don't have anything. Thank you. Does anyone else have any other questions or comments for Mark? Yeah.
Okay.
I think we're good, Mark. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to receive and file. I have support by Paul. I'm a yes. Kyle?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
And Brett?
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, before you move on,
Yes.
I'm assuming your motion is intending to approve the resolution that's worded a little bit different than receiving and put on file. Was that your intent?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Thank you.
All right, so let's move along then to number 6. Request that the board consider for approval adjustments applications the benefits as follows. Yes, Julie.
Excuse me, I'm sorry. Could Mr. Bice review the discontinuation of the pension benefit guarantee corporation rate, which is right prior to number 6?
Sure. Okay, I'm going to attempt to share my screen again. So the PBGC stands for Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation. It's a government entity that mostly is there to provide protection for private sector plans like GM, Coca-Cola, Pepsi. So all those private sector plans have to pay what are called PBGC premiums. And in the case that they go bankrupt, they can, provide some protection in that case. One of the things, in addition to that, that's their main purpose, but historically they've also created what are called PBGC immediate interest rates for certain calculations. And many public sector systems like City of Royal Oak, we have dozens of them in the state of Michigan, have adopted the PBGC immediate interest rate, which is published on a monthly basis. And they use that interest rate to convert the lump sum value of everyone's account balance and convert that into annuity. So when people retire, they're allowed to take their contributions in a lump sum. And if they decide to do that, we convert that lump sum into an annuity and subtract it from their monthly benefit. And the interest rate that we use is called this PBGC interest rate, immediate interest rate. Well, the PBGC has decided to discontinue publishing this rate, which has left a lot of public retirement systems who use this rate in a bit of a bind because this interest rate is, in many cases, defined referred to in the various union contracts as part of the benefit. That's how the member's benefit is calculated. So the bottom line is that we'll have to come up with a new interest rate, a new interest rate going forward. And we have a little bit of time because according to the contracts, we use the PBGC rate in effect on the beginning of the fiscal year, which is July 1. So this will essentially affect calculations beginning July 1, 2021. But at that time, we'll need some direction from either the board or City of Royal Oak as to what interest rate to use. This document outlines different options, either selecting a fixed interest rate that doesn't change every year, selecting a different index, or there's also what's called the PBGC transition methodology, but that's only good for, you know, a little bit of time, and it's still not the official PBGC rate. So what one of my other clients has done is try to construct a letter of understanding with the various union groups to come up with some agreed upon rate. I think they're going to just use the most current interest rate until they can come up with an agreement. And the last published interest rate by the PBGC is 0%. Keep in mind that when, you know, this interest rate was initially created, interest rates were around 7%. So they were somewhat cost neutral to the system. When the interest rate goes down to 0, that's typically favorable to the member and adds cost to the city. So now this is typically a bargained issue with the various unions. So just wanted, like I said, they just kind of sprung this on us the last month, just letting the board know you know, what the situation is, and you know, something will have to be decided in order to do benefit calculations by July 1, 2021. Any questions on that? I know it's kind of a technical issue. It's complicated, but it's just something that will have to be decided in order to complete benefit calculations going forward.
Okay, thank you. Julie, is that something that we should be adding on to one of the future agendas then, so we're prepared for it in advance, or is that something that will be handled in a different way for us?
I can update the board once the city and the unions have negotiated what they're going to do. Bring it back so the board's informed.
Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
May I suggest that not only receive and file Gabriel Roeder's notification, but that you specifically direct that it be forwarded to the appropriate parties for clarification as to the appropriate rate to be used?
Yes. I'll go ahead and make that motion. Support by Brett. All in favor? Myself, I'm a yes. Kyle?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Brett?
Yes.
Okay, we will do that then. All right, brings us to number 6. Request that the board consider for approval adjustments, applications, and benefits as follows. Jennifer Woods, former service aide with the police department, requests withdrawal of employee non-vested contributions and interest from the plan amounting to $98,3658. Separation from service was effective November 15th, 2019. Request for board approval for the withdrawal of non-vested contributions interest of $98,3658. Stacy J. Wood, alternate payee of Timothy A. Wood, former detective with the police department, based on the final EDRL calculations due to the participant, Timothy A. Wood, as of his retirement date of July 29th, 2020. Stacy J. Wood's monthly retirement allowance increased from $1106.69 to $1707.40. Request for board approval for Stacy J. Wood's monthly retirement allowance increased from $1106.69 to $1707.40. Applications. Brett, can you help me out with that name?
Zelikevich.
Brian Zelikevich of the Police Department, PCOA Bargaining Unit, 26 years and 6 months. Purchased 3 years of contract time of service credit. Requested retirement date of January 3rd, 2021. Eligible based on years of service. Age, Brian Zelikevich. Requests an estimated pension payment in accordance with the following policy. Effective January 1, 2020, the board will allow for payment of an estimated pension payment for certain new retirees that make the election due to hardship. The estimated calculation will be calculated by taking 75% of the straight life calculation using average base wage only. Base wage that will be utilized in the FAC excludes roll-ins, years of service, and the applicable multipliers. Any under/over payments will be paid/collected. This policy will be available to those employees with a retirement date of January 1, 2020 through August 31st, 2020. At the July 10th, 2020 retirement board meeting, Lee Colick motioned to continue paying estimated payments from January 1 through August 31st each year, as long as the criteria is met by the applicant. The motion was adopted unanimously. Request that the board approve the retirement application and estimated pension payment for Brian Z. Retirement benefits. Timothy A. Wood of the Police Department, Detective Bargaining Unit, 28 years and 1 month of service credit. Retirement date of July 29, 2020. Selected regular SL 49 to 130 gross monthly benefit with withdrawal of contributions interest of $94,459.57. Request for board approval for the gross monthly benefit payment of $49 to $130 to Timothy A. Wood and withdrawal of contributions interest of $94,459.57. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to approve the adjustments, applications, and benefits as listed. Is there support? Support by Brett. All in favor? I'm a yes. Kyle?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Brett?
Yes.
Thank you. Investments. I'm going to turn it over to Terry.
Okay, good morning, everyone. I'll try to share my screen here. Just 1 second. All right, in the interest of time, why don't we go, everybody hopefully can see this. If not, please let me know. Let's go right to this page, performance. Just very briefly, it was a great month. And the markets continue to follow the pattern that we discussed last month, which is that investors have become very bullish on the back of the COVID vaccine news, looking for the economy to reopen in 2021 and for corporate profits and earnings to begin to grow at a stronger rate as a result. So that bullishness you see is in the 1 month period here, about 8.7% net of fees was the return, and it now means that on a year-to-date basis, net of fees, the portfolio is up about 11.4% versus 10.9 for the benchmark. So as was indicated earlier during the actuarial discussion, there's been pretty strong rebound since the end of your fiscal year. At the bottom, you can see that for the month added another almost $13.6 million in gains to the portfolio, now leaving it at $167,743,000. As you can see, that's a gain of about $21 million over the last 1 year, about $17 million on a calendar year-to-date basis. So if we go to the next page, you can see the breakdowns. Again, equity markets roared ahead. Your total equity portfolio is up about almost 12.5%. The equity markets for the month were really led by the non-U.S. portion of the portfolio. As you can see, the non-U.S. portion of the portfolio is up about 12.1%. And if we break it down a little finer, as you can see, the S&P 500 index was up about 10.9%. The small cap continued a very strong rebound. Again, that was the most impacted by the downturn in the first quarter and had the strongest rebound, up 18.1% in the month. Now compounding out at about 23.8% on a year-to-date basis. So quite a strong move for small cap. In terms of we're indexed, as we know, on the domestic side, on the international equity portfolios, the World Equity ex-US fund managers were up 12.5%, a little bit behind their benchmark for the month, but as you can see on a year-to-date basis, well ahead of their benchmark. And now really all these categories really not only recouping the losses from the first half of the year, but now adding some pretty nice returns for the year-to-date numbers. Emerging market equities managers did a nice job for the month, up 10.3% ahead of the benchmark. Now that is now as a result of the month, now we're seeing some positive numbers on a year-to-date basis, almost the same number on a year-to-date basis, up 10.1%. Fixed income, 2.63% for the month. We saw another consistent move up from core fixed income, 1.35%, again ahead of the benchmarks, but really extraordinary when you look on a year-to-date basis with investment grade bonds. Even though we were in a very low interest rate environment, rates going lower, we see that for the year, up 9.3% so far for the first 11 months. So very strong return for investment grade fixed income. Emerging market debt and high yield both continue to bounce back. Again, having been hit harder in the first half of the year, they act more like equities in terms of their risk profile. But that also means now with the bullishness in the market, we continue to see a strong rebound there. Emerging market debt up 5.6% for the month, and now on positive territory on a year-to-date basis, ahead of the benchmark. High yield bonds up 4.4 for the month, again comfortably ahead of the benchmark. Still a little ground to make up on a relative basis on a year-to-date basis, up 3.5 versus 4.1 for the benchmark, but closing that gap as the latter part of the year unfolds. We don't have a new number yet for core property. That's only reported quarterly, so that shows as a zero. Structured credit continues its strong rebound. Again, hit very hard first part of the year, up about 5.1% for the month. Now, still a little bit negative on a year-to-date basis. Again, remember structured credits reported on a 1-month lag. Actually should be positive here now as a result of performance in November. Private equity, not much to report yet. You only have a little over $90,000 invested there. So not really anything worth commenting on there. But overall, great month, and hopefully we continue to see some bullishness going into the first quarter. Happy to answer any questions.
Sounds good. Thank you, Terry. Does anyone have any questions for Terry?
I'll stop sharing then.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to receive and file. Support by Brett. I'm a yes. Kyle?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Brett?
Yes.
All right, thank you. That brings us to legal. Tom, did you have anything here?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Recommendation would be to approve the 4 items as presented on the agenda. And other than my wish for you to have a safe and happy holiday season, that would conclude my legal report.
All right, thank you. I appreciate that. I want to make a motion to accept and receive and file the information provided. Support by Kyle. I'm a yes. Kyle?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Brett?
Yes.
All right, thank you. Let's go ahead and look at a date for the next meeting. Does Friday, January 22nd, 2021 not work for anyone?
Should be fine for me.
Okay. Good for everyone?
Yeah, it's good on my calendar as well.
Okay, Brian's good. Julie? Julie's good. Okay. Sounds good. The date of the next meeting is set for Friday, January 22nd, 2021, at 8 a.m. I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to adjourn. Support by Brett. I'm a yes. Kyle?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Brett?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Well, thank you all very much. May you have happy and safe holidays. I look forward to talking to you next year.
Thank you, Terry, as well. Does anyone need a break before we jump on into the next meeting?
Per my email yesterday, I've only got about 5 more minutes before I got to bug out for a work obligation.
Okay. Lisa just wrote that was about 8:52 is when I adjourned from that last one for.
Yeah, Lee, I have a hard stop at 9:15, so.
Okay, sounds good. We're gonna blast through this one and be out of here. No pressure, Brian. I'm gonna call to order the Retiree Healthcare Investment Board meeting for Friday, December 18th, called to order at 8:53 a.m. We're gonna start with roll call. Myself, Lee Colick, chairperson, and I'm in Royal Oak, Michigan. We have Brett Nelson, who is the vice chair.
Troy, Michigan.
Thank you. We have Kyle DeBuck, commissioner and trustee.
I'm here from Royal Oak, Michigan.
All right, thank you. We have Paul Brake, city manager and trustee.
President Royal Oak.
Okay. And we have Julie Rudd, board chief administrative officer, board secretary, board treasurer.
Present.
Lisa Genord, administrative assistant, pension technician.
Present.
Tom Mischau, board attorney with Van Overbeek, Mischau and Timoney.
Present.
Brian Green, ANCO investment advisor.
Present.
Mark Biss.
Here.
Did I get?
Here.
Oh, and Mike is here too. Okay. All right. Thank you. That brings us to public comment. Carol, are you still with us? Okay, I don't believe we had any public comment here. I'm going to move to number 3, and I'm going to request that the board approve the agenda for December 18th, 2020. Do I have support? Support by Brett. I am a yes. Kyle?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Brett?
Yes.
I'm going to make a motion that the board approve the minutes for November 20th, 2020. Is there support?
Brett support.
Brett supports. I am a yes. Kyle?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Brett?
Yes.
Brings us to number 5, presentation of the retiree healthcare actuarial valuation. Mark, did we have anything to add to this one, or?
Yeah, I'll just try to be very brief since this is the retiree healthcare evaluation. And I will share my screen again. So we talked about the pension valuation before. That determines the contribution rates, and that's calculated every year. This retiree healthcare plan, the actuarial valuation is calculated every 2 years. So we give you 2 years worth of recommended contribution rates. And I'll just start with very briefly the highlights. Liabilities and assets, when you look at them, the plan is 94.3% funded. Similar to what happened with the general side on the pension, the OPEB side bonded, the city bonded to remove a lot of their unfunded liability. So the fact that you're 94% funded is way above what most cities are at. A lot of places haven't even started to fund yet. So the unfunded liability is here shown in item 4 is $8.4 million. It's important to keep in mind that, you know, when you have almost $150 million in assets, just a small, and you're almost 100% funded, any small movement by 1 or 2% in either the assets or the liabilities is going to leverage on this unfunded liability. So 2 years ago, the unfunded liability was about 1.8 million. Again, assets just shifted by a couple percent, and the unfunded liability went up to $8.4 million. So that's going to affect the volatility of the contribution. But again, 94% funded is a very good place to be. So then just summarizing the contributions in total, going down here, $1.498 million for the fiscal year beginning July 1, 2021, and then about $1.4 million the following years. Again, the primary, it was about $1 million in the last valuation, but now we have 2 years of asset experience that's unfavorable asset experience that's affecting that number. And again, we also have more retirements than expected. So in general, you will see a little bit of volatility in this number, but 94% funded is a great place to be with regard to retiree health obligations. I think that's really the information you need to know. So unless there's more questions, I'd be happy to take them.
Sounds good. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Paul, how did you word the last motion? Could you make this motion? You're on mute.
Oh, sorry about that.
That's
So,
okay.
Move to approve the resolution that approve the actuarial report for the retiree investment.
Perfect. Thank you. I second it. I am a yes. Kyle? Oh, that's right. I'm sorry. Kyle had to leave. Okay. Brett?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else that, I don't think there's anything else that we're going to need a quorum for, right? If not, we're going to have to wrap this meeting up really quick if Paul is a hard stop tonight as well. So anything under investments real quick, Brian?
There's nothing from my end that requires action. It's just it's more good news.
Okay. Tom, I'm going to go ahead and make a motion to accept receive and file the information for investments. Is there support?
Support.
Support by Brett. All in favor, I'm a yes. Brett?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Okay. Legal, anything to add, Tom?
No, thank you.
Okay. The date of the next meeting has been set. I'm going to make a motion to adjourn. Support by Brett. I'm a yes. Brett?
Yes.
Paul?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Happy holidays.
Thanks. Happy holidays.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.